Hello there, folks, and welcome to a 1 versus 1 between AdmiralGeneral and AndreasG here on colossal system. Colossal. So, this one was sent in to me again, so we'll just have to see how this goes. Further away, folks, if you have good replays, by all means, send them in and I'll have a look at them. I don't guarantee that they'll end up on YouTube, but if they're good enough, why not? I'm aware that a lot of my videos are more sort of, coverage of live streams. But anyway, so we've got two good players here. AdmiralGeneral, arguably one of the top, if not the top MPA at the moment, in green down here, with his signature Stickman Commander. Bots first, air second, combat fab for the reclaim. Quite why is beyond me, because looking at this map, there is a ton of metal that he can go and claim. So why sacrificing his commander's health is necessary, I don't know, especially up first. Rather curious. Maybe he's going to go and get a lot of build power out next, and just wants to make sure that he doesn't stall. Meanwhile, up here we have AndreasG. He's been returning to the game as of late, coming in with some lobs. After vehicle first. He managed to kill off a Firefly there, so it prevents AdmiralGeneral. Did Admiral see the lob? He did. So he knows that those strats are a thing. Hence the point defense here to deal with any docks that fly his way. Of course, rushing that up is essential now that they could just hop over this rocky outcropping here. Of course, something I do want to reiterate is that knowing PA stats, the metal spots that you see on the map may not be all that there are. There may be some others that are missed as a result of PA stats replays being PA stats replays. So just bear that in mind. But it looks as though we have a good selection, so it should be okay. So judging on the metal then, yes, we are missing some. There's one there that wasn't picked up. There's a lot of metal to expand to, and that's not even showing the hill ones. So there's ones down to the poles, which are relatively safe for the early game rush expansions. Of course, something players have done in the past is rush over here to try and claim these choke points here, which I wouldn't put it past these guys to try and do. Andreas changing where he's popping his lobs down, always a good strat. Bomber coming in though. Will he micro well enough? He does. Second one. Of course, the more bombers there are, the more micro he needs. Second lob now up and ready, so he's going to be trying to harass and just prevent Admiral from getting a wild expansion at this stage in the game. 3 bombers out now for Admiral. He realises he needs that. And of course, based on his scouting of Andreas, he didn't see an air factory, so he knows that he can probably put up a few more bombers into his mix than one would assume. Admiral going on the hard defensive here with so many point defense. Let's see what's queued up down here, where the docks are going to run into their commander. Another bot factory there. They must expect Andreas to not actually want to push in here. Let's keep his docks alive for as long as possible. Now comes the air factory though. He realises he needs to support his docks, otherwise they're just wasted metal and struggling for his economy for no reason whatsoever. Down into the red numbers there. Ooh, gonna get a couple of fabber picks here. Down they go. Nice, nice picks there by those lobs. Coming up though, we've got the air now for Admiral going around, losing his bombers though, so we will not get the fabber pick there. He's probably got some more bombers ready to follow it up though, and that's what he needs to do as well. Defending, just prevent Andreas from expanding here, because it seems as though Andreas has invested a heavy amount in these lobs early game, and it doesn't look as though he wants to give it up lightly. More docks constantly flying over the rocks in the middle there. Of course, something that Admiral could do is just go and reclaim all these wrecks. So rather than reclaim his comm, could go and pop up a few wrecks, of course. Grab him a bit of metal that way. Of course, he would need to defend his combat fabs from the docks that'll continue to sort of fly overhead. What I like is Andreas over here, just popping a scout here and there, just to see what's coming around in these different places, just to keep tabs on what's going on. T2 now. Vehicles up. Of course, shellers are going to be useful to park along here and fire over, and levelers, of course, to come around the side. He will want a storm, though, based on the amount of air. Either a storm or a heavy supply of spinners. He certainly already seems to have enough spinners for the time being. They're just not going in with the docks. This is just keeping Admiral distracted here, I feel, although Admiral is doing a really good job at continuing to build up his base, continuing to expand where Andreas isn't checking. And that's going to make sure that Admiral does not fall behind in this game. Of course, now Admiral coming around the back sees the Fab, realising that his approach vector is favourable, pops down the bombs and legs it, only taking a couple of Bumblebee losses there. But still, killing the Fab and before the turret was finished, so that's quite a nice pick there. What he needs to do now maybe is kill off these Fabs that are... well, the Fab that is building that T2 factory. Starting his own now, going for bots instead of vehicles. Going not in favour of the superior level of firepower, possibly because he intends to use slammers in a thiswardly direction. Possibly because he intends to use locusts. We will have to see. Certainly with the dock spam, slammers will be more suitable for defence at any rate. Just popping down a couple of slammers will prevent against these annoying clusters of bots that keep materialising or appearing in his base. What these lobs do need to do, I feel, though, is coordinate where they're putting stuff down. Problem is, there's a whole bunch of turrets in that location. So here, Andreas changing strategy, putting them in base. Is he building up to actually move in before they're lost, perhaps? Realising that he's taking too many losses at the moment. Aha! Air Fabs for the North Pole for Andreas. Will Admiral get a handle on that? To bear in mind that there are these metal spots that are missing. Air Fabs out for Admiral, and more Fabs over the back. Pulling away a little bit in the economy there. That's where Andreas is desperately trying to get back into the game there. Saving his Air Fabs, realising the docks are there and will be looking for the snipes. Coming in, the Bumblebee not picking up the Fab there, and losing a large number of Bumblebees in these raids there, but doing a really good job at picking up those Air Fabs, continuing to contain Andreas. Andreas's lob gambit here has really not paid off as of yet. We'll have to see whether this Docks blob manages to do anything. If it walks into these mines, then negated completely. But we shall see. We shall indeed see. More air trades there, losing all of his bombers now. And Andreas trying to get back into the air game now. 5 air factories. T2 vehicles almost finished. Bots coming around the side, doing a bit of raiding around the back. So actually looking at air factory counts here, Andreas should in rights pull away into the lead with regards to the air control. Admiral needs to have a little look-see and see that there's actually 5 there. He's got 1 extra. This force of docks here, though, a little bit threatening for these expansions. The Fabs will go down, so will the expansion. Nothing left over there. Thing is, though, most of this this expansion in the water that Admiral has managed to secure with his air Fabs is going to be relatively safe. The only thing Andreas has really got against it are the occasional drifter, and he's not really focusing on building those anymore. Every now and then you see one pop out, but he's certainly not really focusing on it. Now that he's seen all of this expansion, he will probably send a couple of drifters in that woodly direction. But Andreas really struggling with his economy here. And the air Fabs from AdmiralGeneral stacking up to desperately try and get this expansion done as soon as possible. The Hummingbird, though, will pick them all off, one after the other. Down they go. That's heavy investment from Admiral being negated here, but He's got his T2 bots, and Andreas has his T2 vehicles. So will they clash, or will Admiral use his T2 bots wisely and avoid confrontations with the vehicles where he doesn't have to? Mine's there, doing good work, and just realising that there's some danger around, pulling back a little bit. He doesn't have the vision there. Admiral really needs to get up some more air factories. Has he queued any more up? He has not. He's going full on bots. What's his plan here? Just to swarm Andreas? What does he see? Does he see the T2 bots? He does. Vehicles, rather. Does Andreas see the bots? He does not. Well, he sees slammers, so he knows that T2 bots are a thing, and he sees that they're heading in a thiswardly direction at a leisurely pace, let's say. So he knows to defend this side, or at least he should. There's the air scout. He sees the T2 bots now and ready. Aha, Admiral changes queue. He realises he needs to get back into the air game here as Andreas has pulled away a little bit. He realises that he needs his expansions that are getting picked off by drifters. Of course, the lobs will continue to supplement Andreas' forces, but now we have the levelers being built, and these bots and slammers and stuff need to actually move. But of course, they don't want to push in too early, because of course Andreas still has air dominance, and Admiral knows that he needs to support his ground forces going in there, hence the sudden change to air. These drifters, though, will be pesky. A couple of slammers over there will deal with those quite nicely, I believe. There you go. Andreas realises that this force is approaching. There's only 2 levelers yet to deal with this, and he's going up for his second vehicle factory. He's building a catapult in the base there. I wonder how much range that has. I think that could have a decent amount of range there. It's going to be quite an interesting place to put that, actually. Here we've got bombers now for Admiral. He sees the comm there. Ooh, good Uber cannons here, but the comm is in a little bit of spot of danger here. He's got behind the walls, which is good. Admiral realising he doesn't have any air coverage at the moment, just ducking and weaving with his bots as best he can. He knows that if he wins this air fight, he has the dominance over the air. He does win it. He knows that he can push in now, but does he? There are vehicles there, and he doesn't want to lose his slammers yet. He wants to keep them alive and go and deal damage with them before they die, ideally, but the levelers there just chasing. The raiding will commence. Ah. Lovely bombing run there. Third pass will finish off the slammer quite nicely. Not before the expansion goes down, however. What's Admiral's next plan of action? Again, bots through the water. And of course, whether they stick out of the water, they do. So the drifters will be able to shoot at these. That's a really pesky place for that catapult, and actually it's opening up against these turrets quite nicely for these lobs to maybe change where they're going. That's something that Admiral needs to keep an eye on. He has got back into the air game though, and Andreas not supplementing it with more of his own air factories. It looks as though he's desperately trying to keep on the defensive until he realises that he can push out with the vehicles. Problem is, with the bot presence from Admiral, he does not feel safe at all. The vehicles just move too slowly, and the bots are getting ever more omnipresent. As more and more slammers continue to go up, we did see a third T2 bot factory there, like third T2 vehicles. That factory slowly being built, but the slammers are in the base. The levelers will be desperately trying to defend, but of course the slammers in nice, close and personal will lock them down quite nicely here. Down go the fabs. That's quite important. It's going to set the build production back just a little bit. Not too much though. So overall, an okay attack. I feel as though it could have gone better, but the catapult and levelers doing really, really good work here. Let's have a look around the rest of the planet here. It looks as though Andreas is desperately trying to do a little bit of raiding. It looks as though we got 2 metal points there. Quite how that's working, I don't know. Maybe they're just sharing a mechs. But down go the air fabs again. But they finish the mechs! Wow. Thing is, these docks are just going to be pesky nuisances. Well, really needs to get a handle on that, but he's got okay economy here. Andreas floating somewhat. Hence the sudden rush to build these extra T2 vehicle factories. Out come the bots there, of course, desperately trying to do some raiding, and that's what's important here, is they need to close off Andreas' income. The problem is there's just so much in the base. I don't know why maps always have so much metal in the base, because you don't need to expand, and raiding the expansions doesn't necessarily harm you. Because of course Andreas was floating, and now all the raiding does is mean that he's not necessarily floating. So in the bigger picture, it's not doing a huge amount of damage. Same can't necessarily be said for Admiral, however. Andreas has got all the T2 up in his base. Admiral's still a little bit behind in that respect, but he's getting there. He's got so many air factories now. That's an insane number of air factories. And it would appear as though he really does want to take the skies. And then looking at Andreas' base, there's only a couple of bits of flak here and there to actually prevent any form of significant bomber damage. And Admiral just has such an air game lead now. Andreas really far behind, although as long as he has some storms in his army, the bombers won't be able to touch it. The flak's in the base there. Of course, the catapult is there with no AA support. That'll probably be a prime target, as it is rather a nuisance. Still, the raiding continues round the back. Admiral going to be pushing in unfavourably against these levelers, but the slammers have got in close and personal again. Running a few into some landmines there, not great. But they're in range of the comm. Will they focus him down here? No, they will not. Levelers and the Uber Cannon do save the day once again. But, looking at that Air Force, bombers increasing in number. Raiding increasing in efficiency as you've got the slammers moving around over here, there and everywhere. And there's just green dots all over the map there. Look at the economy difference, 370 to 310 in the army tab there. An additional 50, most of that is in the air. Bomber pass on the commander though. And it will take him down. The flak is not close enough. And there you go. Really well played from Admiral there, realising what he needed to do on the map, realising that Andreas, with his little cheeky gambits at the beginning, wasn't necessarily focusing on the air game. Won the air game, got a response out of Andreas, realises he needs to get up even more air to not only support his units going in, but also possibly to finish it off in the end. Really well played there by AdmiralGeneral. Fortunately, I have another game coming up between these two, so the question is, will Andreas claim back some honour? Find out in the next video, folks. I hope you enjoyed this one, and see you then.